Welcome to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be discussing life. Not like the thing you deal with every day and its crushing disappointment, more like the movie starring handsome fellas Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal.
I don't want to jump ahead, but did I tell you guys about at work? I asked one of the copywriters that I work with. I said, do you have any interest in seeing Life this weekend? And he legit thought I was threatening him. I have a second. He's like, "What did you just say to me?"
But then you weren't.
Who's that?
But then you weren't afraid because he was a copy editor.
Well, no, he's a big fella. I'm 100% petrified.
Nice. Yeah, we're here tonight to talk about Life. I am sick as a bastard. So tonight, who wants to host the show? Who wants
We're
to take
gonna
over?
thumb wrestle over it.
Yeah.
Digitally.
We're just gonna let Joe get drunk and just talk about his feelings and.
It's gonna be
There
good.
you go.
I think Mark is here. We can add him.
I mean, he should probably have to wait, right? I don't see him. I see at least two of his Skype profiles are offline.
Yeah, he's chatting with us. Maybe he doesn't know how to do the internet.
I also got a spam like little ping from Mark on Skype, so he probably got hacked. Just FYI.
Boo.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, we're here to talk about Life.
Good show.
It's a science fiction movie with a little squishy monster that we saw this weekend, and we'll do that in a little bit. We got some other things going on though. I saved a couple emails for you, Joe, specifically that they wrote in.
Shit.
Well, actually, I think it was like one for John and one for Joe that they wrote in, and I was like, well, it doesn't really. I get nothing from reading these when they're not on the show, so got that to look forward to later.
Can't wait.
Oh, you know what we want to talk about? The It remake trailer came out today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Eric, you know, I think you're like drunk on cold medicine and therefore did not want to do introductions today, or?
Oh shit! Holy wow. Okay, well, you know what it was? Joe interrupted me. It's his fault. First
Yeah,
up,
He did do that. He launched into the story. That's fine. We can blame him.
Anyway, John, what's the word of the day?
my name's
Let's go to
Eric.
Voicemails.
I'm your host. First up, Joe. He
Hey.
drinks and interrupts. His name is Joe.
That's right.
Next
I'm
up on
like
the
Eric,
show.
except I drink.
Yeah, exactly. Just like me. Next up on the show, he's the business manager at bloodygoodhorror.com, coming to you from Manhattan, New York City, Josh Norris.
Hi, Eric.
And last up tonight, co-host of the Instamatic, Casey Criswell.
Hello.
Important editor-in-chief person Mark will be joining us as soon as he figures his life shit out. So,
Factual.
ETA on that one.
Impromptu 9 p.m. family reunion at his house.
John,
Mark's dealing with his own life monster called the mother-in-law.
that's right. John, tell me about the It trailer.
Ooh.
Listen, I've been super not impressed by the promotional stills for this movie, but this trailer, I don't want to get too bold, but it gave me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah. So one of the guys I work with pinged me about it, you know, because he knows I'm like the horror guy at work. You know, increasingly that has become a thing.
I think we all know what that's like.
Yeah, and so he pings me. He's like, "Yo, yeah, have you seen this?" And he was like, "They definitely watched Super 8 and Stranger Things before they, you know, set that make this."
Interesting. I mean, in as much as those movies are just like recreating the era that it was from, right? Like,
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
so I should have pointed out
Like,
that
that's
the
weird.
gentleman in question who was pinging me about this is probably like 24 or 25 years old.
Oh.
So
Probably a murderous
he
clown.
maybe predates or post-dates the
That-
original It.
that never
movie.
even occurred to me that like you wouldn't put that together. But I guess like why? I don't know. If you're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
super familiar with 80s movies, why would you look at Stranger Things and be like, oh, this is 80s movies, if that's not like a touchstone for you?
Well, no, I mean,
Yeah.
I think he like gets the reference, but he like may not have even seen the original It. He probably has.
don't
I'll
think-
ask him.
When they say
I mean, it was
like,
a made-for-TV movie, right? It wasn't actually in the
Yeah,
theaters.
yeah.
You know, there's
When they say it feels like Stranger Things, but when in reality it feels like I lost it. Stand by Me.
Yeah, I was gonna say Stand By Me is the
Yeah.
like obvious touchstone for any of these things, but no, I mean the trailer's great. It was super good.
Yeah.
So
What
Um,
are,
Yeah.
what are nerds going to be like in another 20 years when the things they're referencing are 2 generations removed?
Yeah.
or they're referencing things that were initially, like referencing something else. That
It's going to be a podcast reviewing the podcasts about the movies that are the remakes of movies from 30 years ago.
maybe
Yeah.
they'll just be they'll reference our podcast and
Oh,
you know.
maybe people. Yeah, one day we'll go back and listen to our episodes
Yeah.
and then do reviews on them.
These guys.
My
are trying to
favorite
be like-
episodes are the ones when Joe gets drunk.
Maybe that's what we should get the new class on. Like we could have them
Oh, yeah.
doing reviews of our old episodes.
That's beautifully incestuous.
go.
Just have them
That's so
review
meta.
episodes of our show for the patrons. Like, hey,
Yeah. Wait, is this
Give us a
episode
review.
420?
I mean,
Oh, next episode, dude.
bruh.
Chill, bro.
Case, you
Yeah.
better be bringing those vape clouds next week if we've got episode 420 going.
I
Yeah,
mean,
buddy.
I've straight up watched videos of like the video game people that I follow, watching old videos of themselves and talking about it. Like really old, like 10,
Oh, Eric.
like 10 decade, like over a decade old.
I've
Like,
definitely been
that's gonna be
watching.
us.
Don't you think? Like, listen, picture this. Like, we shot a bunch of video the first Horror Hound weekend we went to, that I probably still have somewhere. Like, I think it'd be funny if we watched that and talked about it. Don't you?
Oh man.
I've
I feel like
recently
you're
found myself defending watching Twitch streams to people.
Yeah.
Like,
Listen.
why wouldn't you just play the video games?
You do you.
Why are
Listen,
you just watching videos
Ain't
of
nobody got
people?
time
yeah,
for that.
I don't know. I don't have time for
I
that.
can't do that shit at work, yo. I can just watch. I, can
I
just
don't
have, it on
have
on the
time
side.
for
But
that.
like watching your own Twitch stream,
Well,
like
no.
back.
I mean, if I had one, maybe I'd watch it. You know.
But like that,
That's like the nerd equivalent of like watching your own homemade porn and then like
If
diddling each
I'm-
other to that.
if I'm dealing with somebody on that level where they're like, "Why would you do that?" I'm like, "Bro, I don't even have time to explain this to you. Like, it's 2017. If you don't understand it, I'm not going to be the one to enlighten you."
They're like the sort of people that are like, tattoos last forever, right?
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about Joe saying diddling each other.
You keep
One of my
thinking.
But
One of
whatever
my
you guys are
favorite
talking
D
about, that's cool
words, you
too.
It's such a
Got a
good-
case
such
of the
a good D
diddles
word.
tonight.
Hey, diddly do.
Oh boy.
Diddle
But yeah,
twitch.
that trailer's pretty
It's real
good.
creepy.
I was pretty creepy.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
the look of the clown of Pennywise. I'm gonna reserve judgment until I hear his voice.
Yeah, he didn't
Yeah.
actually talk in this, right?
Yeah,
I,
and
Yeah.
I think this is like a much better thing to base your judgment on than the posters came out. I can't remember if we even talked about them on the show, but it's like so easy to throw nerd rage at a poster because posters half the time don't even resemble like what's in the actual movie, and they're like,
Yeah.
the cloud looks so different.
Well,
But
it's just
The
that.
but the trailer makes it kind of complete. It feels like it's more like true to the.
Yeah, it's
the
like I
source.
like the movement and the way they're sort of. It looks like the way they're shooting him is going to be really smart. Like I
Yeah.
think when you just see it in a still, his costume is like a little overdone to me or something. Like what I loved about Curry was there's just simplicity. Like he's just a clown with an oddly big head and sharp ass teeth and spooky eyes. Like
Yeah.
that's what makes it scary.
But I mean, they kicked this trailer off with Georgie and his boat going down to the storm drain, and when he popped up in there, it was legit scary. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Although I did
No,
laugh.
I mean it looks really the look is right. They're like nailing a lot of the beats. It's gonna be really interesting. I mean, Joe mentioned the original, at least when we say the original, I mean like the television one was 2 VHS tapes. I think it was like 3.5
well,
hours.
Yeah.
I was
long.
going to
Yeah.
say that my favorite part was that you went to the store and you get this big fat ass brick of VHS tapes in this like
Yeah.
white case.
How many CD-ROMs is that, Joe?
Because
Oh my god, so many.
That's what I remember about
One
the
Laserdisc.
original so much is that the first tape was fucking awesome. The second
Yeah.
tape sucked.
Yeah, that is broadly true. You are
Well,
Can't
you're
wait to see that
that's a,
CGI spider.
I did find
that is a
myself.
succinct review.
I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, but I do find myself like wondering how they're going to condense the jumping back and forth because there's a reason why that movie was so long because they really
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
really slavish to the book, which helps develop those characters and some of the creepiest scenes are from their childhood. But
I kind of hope
uh,
they don't do the weird part in the second half.
Well, my guess is they're just based on the trailer. They're not going to do any of the adult stuff.
Doesn't seem like it. Yeah. I mean,
Well,
The interesting too,
yeah,
like the
maybe,
original,
maybe.
the made for TV came out in a time when like we were constantly getting these sort of week long made for TV events. So I'm sure a lot of that stuff they put in there literally just to kind of drag it out so they could have like 5 parts or
When are we going to do our comprehensive review of the Shining miniseries? Is all I want to know.
Oh my
Oh
god.
God.
I watched some of that.
Eric's blind hatred for the child actor in that movie is
Love it.
He does.
would be
He is.
worth it alone. Eric, maybe that's what your show should be about. Should be about you reviewing the Shining miniseries.
He is terrible. No, but the other thing though, that trailer was labeled a teaser trailer, so I wouldn't rule out the adult stuff yet because
No,
like,
that was the one we just watched. Is the first actual
No,
full
no,
trailer.
I
They called
understand.
it a teaser.
I
though.
understand that it is a real trailer. You're right, but I got the email from the people and it says teaser trailer. I think they're just. So I'm wondering if there's even more that they're holding back on.
Maybe
Like,
they were
Eric's so
just
important. He
teasing
gets
you.
the
Did you
email.
ever
just
heard of
saying.
it?
I got the email.
I mean,
I've
it
heard
makes
of it.
sense. Like to John's coworker that he's talking about, they cut this trailer, this first trailer, really playing up on the idea that it feels like Stranger Things and everything that's hot right now. So it could be a smart move on their part.
Yeah, no, I was surprised. I thought it looked pretty good. I did laugh out loud when a little kid smacked his head off of the.
Yeah.
Like, that's just an odd slapstick moment for me. I was like, okay. that
It
was
felt
weird.
a little like I don't understand what the point of it was, other than like that was the reason that the boat got away.
Like, it would have been
Yeah.
really funny if all of a sudden there was a record scratch and then you find out this is like a Seltzer and Friedberg like
It
parody.
wasn't. It like the sign didn't even cover the entire street. Like, it was
Oh.
like he had to try really hard to run in the
And it's
trajectory
not-
of the
Yeah.
sign and smash
Well,
his face.
he's also here's the other reason why it's funny. He's not looking in a different direction. He's looking directly at like he's
Yeah.
running towards.
Well, he's
it.
looking down. I mean,
Sort
he's
of,
got
yeah,
his
but
foot
watching his
on.
It's
boat.
right there in
I
your
don't know.
vision. It was
It
just
was a
funny.
little.
It was a little
It-
slapsticky or something.
It's hilarious.
It's
It's
slapsticky element.
You're still new to this, Eric. Kids are idiots.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
I mean, I still walk into shit on accident occasionally as an adult. I'm like in my 40s, so
Oh, yeah.
it's possible.
Casey's just like, well, I walked into a sign today, so
Yeah.
maybe it's okay.
I'm with
Yeah.
you, Casey. Don't worry.
You'd be surprised at things
Um,
you run into when you're trying to catch your weird paper boat. You know.
Eric doesn't have to deal with that problem since he's not up there where a lot of things are that you could walk into.
When is it
Damn,
coming out?
dude.
I'm just ignoring him.
Casey went in.
When is
well,
this
we were
coming
talking
out?
about Eric's height earlier. It's
Yeah.
it's fair.
Can someone
It's a
answer
good
my
thing to
question, or are
know.
you just gonna continue breaking my balls?
I mean, we can.
When is the
did-
movie being released?
September 9, I want to say.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
So I might actually read the book. I'm like
Well,
considering reading it.
I'm like
I was
a
thinking
little
about
bit-
that too.
I
although
tried
it took me
to-
a year to read.
Yeah, I tried to
Stands.
read it once, and I got about 200 or 300 pages in. I'm like, this is boring. I just couldn't get into it. I was
Yeah.
younger. I don't know, maybe. But I've also
I read-
heard it's like a tough King book to try to get in on. Like if you haven't read other King stuff, that it's like pretty dense. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, I've read a ton of Stephen King, but not in like 15 years. So
Actually, I think that was the first. It was the first horror novel I read in junior high because one of my teachers had it on the loan shelf. So
It's like one of my father, like he doesn't watch like horror movies really, but he was like an insane Stephen King fan. He's like every one of his books, like hardcover, first edition, on a shelf at home, and so he was always trying to get me to read it, and then I did, and I was like,
you're like reading.
let's put it this way.
What's
I
the
could
score?
say too
Let's put
that,
it this way. I made it farther into Atlas Shrugged, and that book's fucking dumb.
Ugh,
Books. Check them out.
I was gonna say
Edgy.
though, reading that book for my first horror book in junior high, I was almost to like Joey levels where I wanted to hide the book in the freezer.
I know what you're talking about. Hey,
I
John.
did. You guys watch the other trailer? I think Mark sent out. It is like Phoenix something.
Oh no, I sent out the It trailer. I did not watch the other trailer.
Yeah, that was
Casey
me that
said
was
that, I
talking
didn't.
about. I saw the trailer for Phoenix Forgotten.
Yeah, I
which
hadn't
is-
heard of it at
Yeah,
all.
so this is the 20th. We're nearing or around the 20th anniversary of a real life occurrence called the Phoenix Lights, which are actually really interesting. It's definitely like unsolved mysteries / like early history channel like fodder. But what's interesting about it, it was like a mass UFO sighting in Phoenix, Arizona, 1997. And what's cool about it is like there's a bunch of video from different angles, and there's definitely some like it was never explained as to what it was, and large amounts of people in different areas saw it happen at different parts of the city because it moved while it was going on. So this to me looks like a fake found footage movie, like about that.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you watch the trailer?
I did not. No.
Yeah, I mean,
It-
like my biggest problem with the trailer is I feel like they show a ton. Like
well,
you get a
yeah,
ton of the scares.
that and it almost seems at first glance before you realize what's going on. It seems almost frame for frame like the original Blair Witch when it came out.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
it's got the same film quality that they layered over the top of it to make it grainy and all that stuff, and it's a similar setup. But at the same time, for me, there's some spooky stuff going on there that was kind of cool. So
no, I mean it looks like it could be interesting. I mean, it should be a good review because we're basically in like super late cycle found footage. Like think
Yeah.
about like we haven't seen a lot of found footage recently because it's kind of like petered out, but this could be one where they're trying to like, let's make one last stab at it
Well,
and
it
see.
is. It's super interesting too to like be a found footage movie from an event that actually has found footage in existence, like, but then
Yeah.
to play off of
yeah,
that.
Well, some of it's in the trailer. The the other thing that was
It's
odd
a
about
really,
the trailer
if
to
you're
me,
way into like conspiracy theories and alien stories and shit, like it's really interesting to read up on it.
I loved it. Well, really quick aside, I loved when you were like, early History Channel shit or whatever. But like, do you guys remember '97 is probably like right around fucking Alien Autopsy on
Yeah.
Fox, which was like one
Yeah.
of the
Oh, yeah.
main
It was a huge
channels.
event.
Yeah, yeah. No. I was gonna say the other thing that was weird about that trailer to me, and it's funny, like we don't talk about it that much in the context of trailers, but I've been like, I don't know, maybe it's just like I'm paying attention to it more, but it was like one of those where it's like from the makers of Alien and like Prometheus. So it was like, instead of saying Ridley Scott Productions or whatever, it's like from the maker of Alien, and then it's like, but there was like three like different cycles of that, and it was like, and the producers of like whatever two other like movies it was just odd that they were trying to like tie it to like all of these like random different movies. I don't know, it something like we're going to talk about Life tonight, like in the trailer for that movie they don't do any of it, it's just like, yeah, here's a movie,
Mhm.
and then sometimes they feel like they have to super aggressively pitch like, remember these other movies that you've seen.
I mean, bro, when you have Reynolds and Gyllenhaal, you don't need to do much else.
That's
Yeah.
you're right.
You could
From
just show
a
a picture of Ryan
producer
Reynolds'
of
face for 3
Annabelle.
minutes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I would watch that.
From the producer of Annabelle. That would have been good. Yeah, no, you're definitely right.
From
Do you-
Coffee Gopher.
Can we take a
from
moment?
Paranormal Activity 4.
Can we take a moment, Schnars, and just take a look at the upcoming schedule a little bit?
Oh.
Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit in the pre-show. We are at an interesting spot. We've gotten through the gauntlet of theatrical releases here. So as Joe teed up, next week-
WrestleMania is this weekend. That's important. We'll get that out
Well,
of the way.
yeah, and next week is a very important, very special episode, episode 420. So we have not we have not discussed this, but I'm assuming we're doing Kong Skull Island. Do we
Yeah.
still have do we still have full
Is it still in?
Are you
is
saying
it
we're going to take hits from the Kong, John?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, damn.
Hits
Uh,
from the
yeah, maybe.
Kong?
Nice,
Um,
Mark.
So we could be hitting the Kong, as Mark would say.
I
don't
just
know.
I have it like
Did I do
stuck
it right,
in.
Mark?
I have it
As
stuck in
Joe
my.
and I would say collectively. I think you kind of helped me with that a little bit.
Yeah.
I have it stuck in my head, but I can't quite remember the words. I bet you Joe does though.
Oh yeah, pick it, pack it, fire it up, come
Yes.
on, take a hit from the bomb.
Fire it up,
So
come
what's
up,
just
along.
for a second. Don't
smelly
kick my
green
sauce,
shit?
It's not a new method.
Kong,
I always
Kong
get that
Skull
confused.
Island.
I always get that confused though with pack it up, pack it in, let me
Mhm.
begin.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I have it still playing at my theater, so we could do this
Yeah,
weekend.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, it came in third this weekend. It's one of those where it's kind of not done great, but at the same time, it's still kind of like, cruising right along.
I think it's interesting to do at this point because I've actually like as much people have liked it. I've heard some people be kind of mixed on it, so I'm curious to check it out.
I think the reviews, I mean, I haven't looked that closely, but they weren't super great. So yeah, and at this point,
It looks like a fun movie. Like
It's had good fan feedback, I think. Genre fan feedback.
do you guys just want to review the like feedback?
Let's
of
talk about
the-
it now.
Like,
Sing my song,
Oh,
puff all
yeah.
night long.
Yes.
I'd like to.
From the Kong.
At that point, though,
Can I
Eric,
get a hit?
we do not have a movie for the next 3 weeks. So we
Oh,
talked about
Christ Almighty.
trailers. There is a couple of stuff. I think you guys got on the last episode a couple of recommendations. Devil's Candy, The
Mm.
Voice.
Delicious.
There's still Disappointments Room kicking around, which we never got to
That's
watch.
Yeah.
all my giblets.
Yeah. But
We're gonna
no,
go out on prom night, and I'll show you the devil's candy.
It's just balls. It's just balls. That's all. it is.
Yeah, no, I looked. Devil's Candy is from the director of The Loved Ones.
Oh, that's right. We should do
And it
that.
has Ethan Embry, and we all love
There's
Ethan
a
Embry.
there's a
What-
review on our site.
I have yet to hear a reason why we shouldn't do that.
Joe,
soon as
where
possible.
would we find a review of this movie?
At bloodygoodhorror.com, there's a review of the devil's candy.
Is Devon Sawa also in this? Because I could get into like an Ethan Embry Devon Sawa joint. I think that would be.
Spoken like a true Elijah Wood lookalike, Eric.
Devon Sawa's not the one that died.
I believe it's
No.
pronounced Sun Wee.
Question mark? No, I don't think so. He's from Final
Oh.
Destination.
Fairly certain he's alive.
No, that was the blonde kid from Sequest.
Is he though?
I think you're thinking River Phoenix.
No, I can tell you who I'm thinking of.
It's a joke.
Go ahead, though. Don't let me stop. Jonathan Brandis.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Oh no, you're thinking of Michael Landis from
Right.
Highway
You
to Heaven.
you guys are just naming people now.
It was Prince.
This is good.
Prince passed
going well.
recently. so
George Burns.
Yeah.
His name and dead
So-
people.
It's like shit on the carpet. Kill it.
Joe, speaking of dying and
Smell it green.
and
shit.
mind altering substances, what are we drinking tonight?
Yeah, buddy. We're drinking a beer. I don't even need to explain the premise of life to do this, so it's gonna be a good one. We're drinking a beer from the fine folks out at Bottle Logic Brewing in Anaheim, California. That's where Disneyland is. Anaheim.
Okay, good.
Anaheim.
Nailed it.
That's where Disneyland is, kids.
Oh,
And this is their milk stout, which they call Calf Life. Ba-ba-ba. Calf meaning cow, milk meaning stout. Calf Life. So I think I've talked about milk stouts before. There's no actual milk that goes into the brewing process, but what they do use is this lactose sugar, which gives the beer like sort of this creamy. You guys are gonna love the word mouthfeel. Like the beer has like a like sort of like a heaviness or like thickness to it.
Milk,
and
lemonade.
around the corner the fudge is made. But usually these are a little sweeter, and this one is also. But you know, caramel malts and oats go into the process also. So really, like with a milk stout, you sort of have that creaminess, and then when they put like oats in the process, it even like ups that even more. So, you know, this beer is like drinking like a chocolate bar or something. It's really, really good. Bottle Logic doesn't distribute that far, but if you're out on the West Coast, I definitely suggest you check out their stuff.
So maybe it is where the fudge is made.
It
It's
is.
like, you know.
This one is, you know, I've had a few of theirs, but this one is definitely my favorite of the batch. Comes in at about, I think 5% alcohol, so not like super high. You know, which is kind of traditional of the style. They're not like super crazy. Yeah,
Down a
5.6%
sixer.
alcohol. You can have like 14 or 15 of these and still, you know, drive your kids to soccer practice. BottleLogic.
One of these days
.com
we
is their
should
website.
we should publish a Joe alcohol scale on the website to explain to people that we should preface this with like Joe's recommendations do not necessarily reflect the tolerance of your average human.
Here's what you could drink and still do.
Listeners
BottleLogic.com
at
is their
home,
website.
Joe is a professional.
Up to 6 beers, the answer is just everything.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want.
Well, I mean, you know, these, and especially because they're so heavy, like you're not going to be, you know, like funneling these at a frat party or something. But they're super
Yourself.
good, and especially now that like the winter months are still kind of kicking around a bit,
Oh.
you should check it out.
We're gonna get snow on Friday. It sucks. All
It
right,
might be funneling those if you're in John's frat.
let's talk about life.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
John,
Yes, Eric.
do you donate to Duke every year? When do they call you like alumni?
They do not call, but we do usually make a donation.
This
Do you
year,
need to donate to Duke? Like, are they hurting for cash?
this year, did you call them and just be like, could you guys just like tone the racism down just like a little bit?
We didn't get into it. We haven't gotten into it. Should I? Do you think I should do that?
Tell him there's an extra $5 in there for him.
I'll send him a check and I'll like write on it like "do not cash," unless you stop with the racism and stuff.
Stop it. Stop
Cut it out, guys. Eric is getting upset. So
well.
Oh, just Eric, John? You're not upset about this?
I mean,
Boy.
I suppose you do owe them. I suppose you do owe them for teaching you fancy words, John, so that you can bring us the word of the day.
Eric, today's word is myocyte.
Oh, wow.
A myocyte is the type of cell found in muscle tissue. Myocytes are long, tubular cells that develop from myoblasts to form muscles in a process known as myogenesis.
Tubular, buddy.
Bruh.
There are
Sick
various
myoblasts.
there are various specialized forms of myocytes, cardiac, skeletal, and smooth muscle cells with various properties. The myocyte quite literally means muscle and cell.
Would you call a tube steak a myocyte, John? Smothered in shorts?
What? We should move on here.
What the?
I'm uncomfortable being part of this show anymore.
How old do you think that joke is? And it's still hilarious. Like, it predates me, I'm sure.
What are you talking about?
Tube steak smothered in shorts? You never had, like, a creepy uncle that made that joke?
No.
No?
I can honestly say that's the first I've heard of it, but I like it.
You're right, John. We should move on.
I thought maybe this was like a Limp Bizkit, like hot dog flavored water reference for a second.
No. This is, I don't know. I thought everybody's uncle made that joke at a barbecue.
Jesus Christ, we are so
We got burgers.
right now.
Your uncle.
We got burgers, ribs, tube steaks, smothered in shorts.
John, tell me
Can't think
about
of anything that could pull us out of this hole.
John. Tell me about life, and feel free to interpret that any way you wish.
I've been waiting for you to ask this question.
John's
I
like,
believe,
John's
the
like,
love you take is equal to the love you make. I think that's the.
John's
secret
like,
of
number
it.
one step to success, go to Duke.
Yeah, Duke University.
Shouldn't be a problem. Anybody can go to Duke, right? So just go to Duke, and then you're fine. And everything's fine.
Exactly. Nailed it. All right. Life is somewhat of an oddly named film. Directed by Daniel Espinosa, who you may know of films such as Safe House, which also featured one Ryan Reynolds, as well as a movie called Child 44, which I actually think was sort of a horror movie that we didn't watch, but I forget. It looked not good if I remember correctly. In any event,
John.
so Daniel Espinosa. It features, as I mentioned, Ryan Reynolds, Jake Gyllenhaal, and then some international talent: Rebecca Ferguson, Hiroyuki Sanada, and then Olga, and I am not going to pronounce her last name. So this takes place on the International Space Station. There are 6 astronauts, and they are there performing a mission where they are trying to retrieve a Mars lander that is bringing back soil samples to the International Space Station. And it's not immediately clear to me, like, sort of why they expected there to be or had suspicion that there was going to be evidence of life in the soil samples coming back, but they were essentially prepared that they were going to be.
I think the point was that I think the point was that they just didn't know. I mean, and they think that there could be.
They made a quick reference to something that they saw on the excavator robot's cameras at one point. It was like a brief one-off comment, but I did hear it.
Basically, I mean, and this becomes somewhat relevant to the plot. Like, they had done a lot of preparation for dealing with some bio life form. Like, specifically, the final actor, Arian Bakare, who plays this guy Hugh Derry. He is an exobiologist, which is essentially like a biology specialist, I guess, in, like, I don't know,
Exos.
Yeah, exo. Well, so I was like, exo just means like outside, I think. But in any event, he so
Non-Euclidean
someone,
life forms.
if there's an exobiologist listening, you can write in and tell us what exactly you're doing. But yeah, so he's there.
Doubt it.
They very quickly in the beginning of the film, they catch the rover in a pretty like cool sequence actually, and they catch it. They get the soil samples out, and they immediately find like a basically a single cell organism that they then set out to try to, quote unquote, awaken. And essentially, it had been in kind of a suspended state or some type of hibernation because of the atmosphere of Mars. And at one point, I think there's also a reference, and this was definitely in the trailer, but like actually not covered that much in the film, that essentially they hypothesized that like this creature had been on Mars so long that it had probably been there when the atmosphere was more hospitable to
Wasn't
life.
there a
And
line about like there was a line in the trailer that was not in the movie where one of them says like this thing wiped out all life on Mars.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh,
And it wasn't.
That's-
It was not in the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was exactly what I was thinking about. And you're right. I was like listening for it in the film, and it never really comes up.
Yeah.
But so yeah, they find this thing. They basically like have to do some jiggering with the atmosphere that they're holding the cellular organism in. But once they do, it immediately starts to kind of like uh, not regenerate. It comes to life, and then it pops off. It's no, it reproduces. My biology terms are not coming super
No,
easily.
popping off is a biology
I
term.
think it's
Yeah,
pretty,
no, I think Joe's right. So
E
it
equals MC pop.
it pops off a bunch of times until it's basically the size of like a mouse, or like a cell phone, because it's pretty flat. And so they're like interacting with it, and at this point, or at one point, there's like something happens. It like the a hose gets disconnected, and its environment gets fucked up. And so they go in and they're like, okay, we have to like re-stimulate this thing because it's basically gone back into hibernation. And so they start poking it with a like essentially a little mini shock
Hey,
rod,
step
like
number
Little tiny cattle prod.
yeah, step
Yeah.
number one. If you find like
I
sentient,
prefer John's term shock rod.
yeah, if you
Shock
if you find potentially sentient life, don't fucking shock it.
Yeah.
That was John's nickname. in
Especially-
You
college.
definitely go from
Especially
zero
when
to
it's
shock rod really fast.
Look out, ladies! Old shock rods here.
especially when it's growing as
Here
fast as
comes
this
the
thing,
shock
and like
rod.
you don't
Yeah.
know if it's like friendly or not. Like don't
Well, I
don't
guess-
zap it.
I think that
Just
first-
like John Shockrod in college.
that those first like
Whoa.
I think the growth is not meant to be that fast. Like I think because at one point they are showing you the
Well, no, but
days.
she
It's
says,
day one,
but-
and then
but
it's like
right
day
before-
30.
but right before shit goes bad, she says like it's growing way too fast. Like she makes a
Right
comment
before the
about it.
shock rod hits the fan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like right
exactly.
before no, it's like it's actually during the scene where because when there's a lot made in the movie of this the one British actress and how it's basically her job to set up quote unquote firewalls of like if something goes wrong we need to make sure that whatever this is if it's bad doesn't get back to Earth. So when the thing blows up in the lab or whatever it is, she gets really pissed and she's kind of dressing everybody down and she says to Reynolds or she says to somebody like it's growing too fast and he's getting too attached to it and he needs to see that it's not like a person, you know what I mean? Like, and it's weird because like the kids name it so it has a name and he's referring to it by a name and she's like, she yells, she kind of chides him at one point for using the name and he's obviously like kind of overly attached to it, but she does make the comment right before
It's
shit
growing
goes bad
quickly.
that it's growing too quickly,
Yeah.
like or quickly enough that like they're feeling uneasy about it.
Yeah, I mean it is alien life, and there is even a sequence where they show back on Earth sort of the reception to this finding, and they like select a like elementary school that they let name it. So then the creature then gets the name Calvin after this school, which was the Calvin Coolidge like elementary school or something like that.
I thought that was actually really cool. Not to like kind of jump in, but like I actually love the fact that they showed like back on Earth, like
Yeah.
the reaction of this.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really sweet.
And it's like
little-
the whole movie is great uses I feel like of near future technology. One of them being like, well, I guess you can like communicate with the International Space Station, like, but there one dude is straight up like
Yeah.
FaceTiming with his wife while she's in the hospital. Like that seems like a little far-fetched. I don't know.
It was
But
a
it's-
lot bigger than the actual space station too. So
But it's definitely
Yeah.
like there's this kind of subtle advancement of technology that we don't quite have yet that is like all throughout the film, and that was pretty interesting.
You don't know what's in space.
I think-
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was gonna say, like, I actually just like assumed if the
Yeah,
like
these
your
things
point
happen.
about like the FaceTime stuff, like I don't know if they can face it, but like they definitely do like live streams with people in space.
Just
and
because
one
I
dude
can't
sang
get
David
my
Bowie.
just
Yeah,
because I can't get my Skype connection together doesn't mean that astronauts can't.
they have a much better internet connection.
Just
than
'cause Mark can't
does
show
in
up
the
on
United
time.
They're closer to the satellites. I think that's my problem. I think I'm not close enough to the satellites.
Joe's point though about how like they showed the kids naming it, and showing the reaction on Earth because they were open about what they'd found and stuff. Because we already had a lot of alien movies where they discover alien life and people freak out because it's going to break down religion and yada yada yada. This was showing pretty general acceptance and everything. But what was nice is since they showed that stuff throughout the movie, there was a couple times throughout this movie where you see stuff going on where there's a lot of carnage going on, and I'm thinking all those people on Earth are watching this happen.
But
Well, I'm sure they weren't watching that happen.
To a
because-
point, they weren't. They were.
well,
They're
but we
showing
also
shit on
know that
Fox.
they lost connection to Earth.
Yeah.
So
Yes, but but at the same time, it helps add an emotional punch because since you saw all those people on Earth were watching them, were excited, and all of a sudden communication gets cut abruptly, they got to be like, "What the fuck's going on?"
yeah.
Well,
No, that's
certainly
true.
there would have been all of a sudden you would stop hearing updates and be like, WTF.
Yeah.
All right. So so basically, in this scene following what Schnars is setting up here, like the Thing does not like being shocked by John's shock rod, and he flips out. It wraps around the scientist's hand, and after this long protracted scene, busts out. Spoiler alert: kills someone on the crew, which maybe we'll talk about in more depth in a little bit, and escapes into the guts of the ship. And from that point, it's on. It's on.
Thank you, Eric. Yes, that is
Becomes
what
a-
happens.
Like
A
Donkey
regular old
like
game of Where's
Kong?
Calvin.
Taking hits from the Kong. Mark, what did you think of this movie?
Oh, child. This is a this is a fascinating movie because I think when I first kind of like chimed in the email thread, I think that like this movie is objectively to me a good to great sci-fi movie. It's very, I think the effects are great. I think that the pacing is great. I think that there's a lot of tension in it. There's obviously like very high quality acting in this movie, just based on like, I mean, two of like the biggest actors out there right now, and then kind of an ensemble cast beyond that. It's hard for me to like pick the sort of person I would recommend this to, but I really enjoyed it. I thought that I just thought that it was like a fun. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. Like we just described the entire plot, and there's not a ton of like twists and turns or really like complicated world building or mythos or anything to get behind. It's just very much like, oh, they found this alien life. Oh, it's gotten out of control. Oh, it's trying to kill them. And oh, the movie's over. And I kind of mean that in a good way. It's like, it's very not complicated. And I think a lot of times when we get in these sci-fi movies, we kind of end up being very critical of how well fleshed out the world is. And this just doesn't have that problem. This is just like very straight up. So I thought it was pretty enjoyable for what it was. I don't have a ton of bad stuff to say about it. I wouldn't say it was like super amazing, but I really enjoyed it in the moment.
It just like it hits the monster movie beats really well. Like that's the kind of the
Yeah.
like it didn't look
It's a very
like
cool monster.
It
It's
didn't-
like,
it didn't look like a monster movie from the trailer though. Like, and I think that's what people who haven't seen it need to understand. Like, this is a monster ass movie. Like the kind of which we haven't really seen in a mainstream theater in a while.
I think they really had trouble deciding how they wanted to market this thing.
Well, but I mean, to be fair, the first half an hour feels more like a 2001 or something. Like it's very floaty and dreamy and like very like I don't know. It's very which I liked. I mean,
I don't know. That's like super generous to me. Like
no, I just mean in like the way that it's shot. It's not the
Sure.
first like part is so airy and dreamy and kind of like the beauty of space and all this stuff.
Yeah,
And then this
He's
tension,
right. It's got a certain tone.
the tension slowly creeps in and then kind of pops off and it becomes something else.
Everybody's popping off tonight,
Popping
guys.
off. Pop off.
You guys gotta
And it started popping
settle down.
off.
Joe, pop off for me, Joe, won't you?
Yeah, I agree with Mark. I think the thing I liked about this was it didn't feel like it was trying to be like an Alien or what was that movie with Sandra Bullock, Gravity. Like, I feel like we've kind of seen those, and at this point in like 2017, here's some CGI Earth from outer space, like the wow factor of that has kind of gone away. And I feel like they didn't try and play that up too much or rely on that. Like, at the end of the day, it's like this sort of, claustrophobic, trapped in a space station, like monster movie. Just so happens that like everything's floating around, and like I think they do a good job of playing off that without making it feel like they're trying to be like, movies that we've already seen in the past. So, I thought it differentiated itself enough from those types of movies to make it interesting to watch. We'll kind of talk about the ending. I thought it was really nice, and I think John, you said it first. Sort of Twilight Zone ending, which I think is a perfect way of kind of summing it up. I think it's when you're watching it, I think it's kind of obvious, but it's still fun to see it play out. So like Mark said, like this didn't blow me away, but I think it was more fun than I thought it was going to be. It wasn't exactly from like what you guys said, it wasn't exactly what I was expecting from the trailers, but I think the fact that it turned out to be something different made it actually a little more fun for me. So I ended up liking it.
Yeah, I actually was thinking about that. Like the fact that they went with them like being in zero gravity for the entire movie must have just made every aspect of production like incredibly.
I was thinking about that, like how long that
with.
actually like took to film.
Yeah. Well, the budget here was actually fairly big. So I mean, it was like almost $60 million movie.
Yeah, but I mean, you also had Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's gonna
in
cost
this,
us
so-
some money.
Casey, how about you?
I'm with Joe and Mark. I really enjoyed this, and by the end of it, and I think you just mentioned it, Eric. Once you get past the trailer and you realize what kind of movie this is and how much of a monster movie this actually is, it's a good time, and it's kind of cool to see some big names attached to it. So, because you don't see a lot of big names for monster movies, lending their names without it coming out pretty bad and really campy and really cheesy. And this came out pretty solid overall. Yes, you can pick up the threads and it'll fall apart if you really wanted to with like the character development and stuff, but you don't feel like you need to. The tension in this movie, there was a couple different times I found myself on the edge of my seat. We talked about the scene in the lab early on when Calvin really started to wreak havoc, and you see how Calvin tries to escape. And there's some stuff going on with the sprinkler system in the space station and everything as Calvin's trying to escape, and you're watching it one by one as they slam these sprinklers shut.
Yeah,
he's trying to get to him, and it's like, oh God, get it! You're holding your breath each time.
It's edited really well, and those simple kind of like Hitchcock setups of like, or like almost like, or like The Thing, like the way that scenes in The Thing use timing to set off tension is done really well here. It's just another interesting thing.
You can say pop off tension, Eric.
The way it pops off. Schnars, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this way more than I was sort of expecting to going in. I will play the role of slightly more negative podcaster today, just for sake of keeping things interesting. No, I mean Eric, you just said like it was super professionally made. It's to me it ends up not being all that memorable. Like I'm not gonna necessarily like think back. That being said, I do think the things that worked for me, the monster design was fairly unique in that the way I think I've gone on a rant several times about aliens and why they're always anthropomorphic in shape. When if you're living on another planet, there's no reason you would look like a human. So I really liked that this thing was like pretty weird looking. I mean,
it was real weird.
By the end,
Slimy.
it kind of like moved into like sort of reptile, but like translucent, and like they like let it have a face.
They give it a face at
stuff.
some point. Yeah, at a very.
Which I wasn't. I
They
should have
gave up at
mentioned.
a
Like
point.
I wasn't a big fan of that. Like it felt like Zero from Nightmare Before Christmas, and I was kind of like, well.
It didn't. I will say, like, it didn't necessarily need it, but it
No,
didn't.
I mean,
but it
I
didn't.
liked it better when there's a sequence where the first thing that it kills is the mouse, and it just kind of like wraps the mouse up and like strips off its skin and
Yeah,
like super kind of gruesome and not in like extreme close up or anything, but definitely shot and or left kind of unedited. And I liked it better when it was just like, wow,
Yeah, I
this
mean
thing just
that
fucking
part,
kill you in really weird ways.
the part where it's like, constricting basically is the kind of thing that is common throughout all of the kills early in the movie, and to me was a thing that set a lot of the tension, because a lot is made of like, oh, it's crawling up your leg, or oh, what, and like the movie has shown you that it's like super powerful. So I agree that like it didn't really need a face. It had that kind of like, it was already tense enough. If it was like slithering around on you, it was basically going to crush you no matter what.
Yeah.
So I kind of agree the face thing was like a little cheap.
Yeah, but, I mean, overall, I liked it. It was very well made, but not like ultimately all that memorable.
So I actually like super loved this movie. I think it's gonna be. We'll find out at the end of the review, Joe. But I think it's gonna
Oh,
be.
I'm so nervous.
I think it's gonna be top 5 for me this year, unless it. I can't. I don't know where I have.
For now.
It's just. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but if I did have expectations, it totally went in an opposite direction. You know what I mean? Like it. I love that it's like this classy cast. I love that it's like an incognito monster movie out of nowhere that you're not even really expecting. Like if anything, you're expecting a sci-fi kind of alien movie, but it's just like they hit those monster movie beats so well. It's very intense. Has a couple little like twists and turns that like keep things fun. Some like really great creature effects and gore. And I talk about this a lot, but sometimes we review movies on here, especially some of these weird, wet fart theatrical things where I don't even care what happens at the end. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't care. And like, sometimes I literally want to walk out of a theater. I like really, really wanted to see where this movie went. And I think it gets wrapped up by like a pretty sweet ending. Like, and I've heard a little bit of grumblings that we can talk about in a minute, but I thought it was like actually kind of perfect for the tone that the rest of the movie strikes. And it's actually kind of set up like even from the beginning when it starts, from the first moment it attacks somebody, it is setting up a sort of level of intelligence that I think then grows to what we see at the end of the movie. So, I guess it's a little bit of a leap, but the whole thing is, so I don't know. It's just really good. I think horror fans have been sleeping on it a little bit because the trailer was a little all over the place. Like I've had more normies ask me about this than horror fans. Well, so I think like my main point tonight is like, I don't even think I would recommend this to a normie, but I think horror fans should like, it would be a crime to not check this out because you were just kind of lukewarm on it. Because I think
it's got a lot more horror elements than I think the trailer led you to believe.
It's a horror.
No,
movie.
well, they really, really struggled to market this thing.
Yeah.
They just like could not figure out like what they wanted it to look like,
Yeah.
or what. Because if they had gone with a hard horror kind of like push here, I actually think they might have done better in the horror community. Now, the horror community might be smaller than like getting like people interested in a general sci-fi movie. The other weird thing about this though is that they pushed it with an R rating, which is just weird because we talked about this over email, but like it really didn't need an R rating in my opinion. Yeah. They could have like trimmed out some language and like literally like I actually think that this had less blood than like a lot of PG-13.
There's a couple of real gruesome scenes like early on, but then
there's a lot of blood, but like I want to say like CGI enough that it's like no worse than what you see on like the Sci-Fi Channel. Like I think honestly this got an R rating because of the amount of F-bombs they dropped in this.
Yeah.
Like,
no, the joke to me is like you see some of these PG-13 movies that are just like gun fests. Like to me, those are way like quote unquote worse than this, which is like there's like one sequence where they have a flamethrower. It's really early in the film.
You can also get an R rating for quote unquote pervasive scariness. So could be it.
It was tense. Like there was a good bit of tension. I mean, Eric, your point about like caring about what happens at the end is an interesting one. Like I go back and forth on whether or not these were actually like
not caring. Like I don't mean like oh, I care about
you
these
were
people.
like tearing up.
I mean, like this movie was
Yeah.
fucking great, and I was with it. Like I was like,
No,
oh god,
no,
what's gonna
yeah.
happen? You know?
I think the
like,
only character they really built any sort of like connection to was the Asian guy.
Yeah.
And
I disagree. I think that I really like Gyllenhaal.
He has a name, Joe. I can't remember it, but he has a name.
his name's Show, actually.
You know, there's this running thing about
S-H-O.
Gyllenhaal about how like he's been up there too long and he should have gone home by now, and his muscles are atrophying, and they kind of have a couple of extended conversations about how like he just, and it's a little cliche I guess, but like, you know, he can't really handle humanity, which, like, you know, have you guys been around humanity lately? It's kind of fucking awful. So his whole character
Yo,
thing,
you heard of my friend Humanity?
his whole character thing is like, this is where I want to be. Like, I don't want to go back there. And that actually does play into his motivations in the end.
Yeah.
Did
So-
anybody else get a little bit of sling blade from Jake when they like focused in on his face?
Yeah.
Like
I know.
He's
I
getting
know.
ready
exactly.
to declare his love of French fried taters.
Ryan
Yeah.
Reynolds
I reckon I like them
basically
freeze-dried French fried taters.
Ryan Reynolds basically plays Ryan Reynolds. Like
Yeah.
he's just the like cocksure, you know, like cocky, like I can do this.
Well,
I can walk
a lot
in
of
space.
cock. Just
So-
a lot of cock and
Just-
double R.
Rods and
That's
Shock
the
ride
one
shorts.
the interesting tie-in here that we talked a little bit about the director, but the writers of this film are Rhett Reese and a guy named Wernick, like Paul Wernick or something. Their biggest success, they've had two films that I would call successes. One was Zombieland 2009, which you know we saw and really liked, I think.
Saw it.
The other one was Deadpool.
Oh,
So they were the co-writers of the Deadpool film. And I like part of me does wonder if they didn't like have so much success with Deadpool and like this ends up getting greenlit. The timeline doesn't really make sense because this was probably in production for a while. But to me, like and this kind of circles back to Eric's point. And we mentioned earlier, like there was a line in the trailer that doesn't show up in the movie. I do think this went through a lot of editing. You can see it in the way some of the characters, like even to Joe's point with I think he was Japanese, the guy Show who has like the kid.
He was, yeah.
He like that. It's like weird that he gets that like backstory, but then it ultimately like doesn't have that much emotional impact. Because like when he dies, you would have felt roughly the same way about it. You're not like, oh no, he died. Like he wasn't gonna make it, and like.
yeah.
So it's
Well,
like weird that some of this stuff is like not super well balanced, and it shows up. And we talked about this a little bit over email, but the trailer like really heavily uses, or one of the trailers uses "Goodnight Moon." It's in there. It's like really.
I have
look,
a story about
Well-
the Goodnight Moon part, but
Fr-
about
well,
the characters.
We all have a good night moon story.
Yeah. The characters don't. I mean, they interact with each other, right? They talk with each other. They're together on the ship. They don't really have relationships. They're sort of a teaser of like maybe one kind of relationship, but in so much of this movie, they're sort of like split apart and being kind of like hunted basically, or one of them's off doing another task and whatever. And I think for that reason, I agree with John. There's not a ton of emotion really in this movie. There's kind of moments where they like try to make you feel emotion, and the Goodnight Moon is like one of them. But yeah, like they try with this Show character specifically. It's like, oh, he had a kid, but like that's all the characterization he gets. He kind of barely
Yeah.
interacts with everybody else,
and
so
I
you
don't-
don't get the sense
Well,
of like
that's what
closeness.
like,
or
I just-
relationships or
That's the
anything.
point I was making when I was in my little mini review at the start of the show. If you want to tug at the strings, this movie's going to have issues, but at the same time, they do a good enough job with the tension and the action and stuff and the acting that's going on that you can forgive it. It's
I would-
it's pretty easy.
I
to
would
look
also
past.
the
argue-
action so fast
yeah.
that
Yeah.
they kind of tell you what kind of movie it is, and you know everybody's fucked. Like you know that
Yeah.
you know
Like
you're not sure how many people are going to make it out, but you're pretty sure that most of them aren't, and that's and so like that's the kind of movie
one
this is.
tops.
like in a
Right.
in a really highfalutin sci-fi movie, like you would need all that emotion and character development, but like all you really need
Say a Europa report.
all you really need to do here is like make the monster scary and make the action intense, and I think they accomplish that. And I think like I think if I don't know, I get what you're saying, but it really was not on my mind at all during the movie because
Well, I'm not
fuck that
necessarily
alien
saying
is murdering everyone.
it's not really a criticism of the movie so much as it is like just saying that that's not a thing that's present in this movie. There's like you don't really have an emotional connection with anybody, and that's okay. because ultimately, like, with how it ends, you know, it's like you don't. It doesn't really matter that you don't have an emotional connection. I will say during the if you watch the trailer, you know, they feature Goodnight Moon prominently. They're kind of reading it and showing scenes from the movie, and it's also in the movie. Like they get the gift of, I think it was the gift the teen gave Show for his new child was Goodnight Moon, the book, and it's like, you know, he's gonna be an
Also,
astronaut.
like, why is he doing a spacewalk when his wife is pregnant? Like it, or like a space. That's like a little weird to me.
Well, how long has he been in space?
Sometimes you
Dad.
can't control your shock rod, John.
Yeah, exactly.
You get the chance to go to space, you go to space. I don't know if you've seen a little thing called the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. Or Armageddon.
Wolowitz had to make the same decision.
Have you seen? Have you even seen Armageddon, John?
Oh yeah,
I just
that's
think
true.
so. Like the one of the moments where they try to shoehorn a bunch of emotion in this movie is like it's sort of this hopeless scene where they're kind of like, you know, reading Goodnight Moon and talking about everything that's going on there. It's like supposed to be the emotional sort of climax of this movie. And at this point in the movie, someone in my theater fell asleep and was snoring so loud that it was echoing throughout the theater. It wasn't like a little grumble. It was like I felt like he was sitting right next to me. And he must have been alone because it took about 2 minutes for the theater to collectively decide it was time for a stranger to get up and wake this person up, because it was clear they were not waking up and the snoring was not going anywhere, which is funny because we were talking about this over email. Like, this is like one of the hokiest kind of most forced parts in the movie, but I was like trying to buy it. I was like trying to get into it. And then the snoring just like really took me.
I
do want to Jake Gyllenhaal.
I do want to say, like, the thing to me this movie does so well is the monster, but specifically like its movement, right? Because basically what you have is a thing that's just woken up after who knows, like maybe millions of years or something, and
This thing is woke.
the only instinct is survival, and it's growing really fast, and it's kind of like tentacly, a little like an octopus a little bit, and also it's a little more less like, I don't know. It's very like amorphous, but what it does is, and it's also floating, which presumably like it wouldn't be doing on on Mars, right? When it was like normally alive. So that's strange for it, but it learns to move around really fast, and the way it like, I don't know if you've ever seen this thing that like, so like octopuses are known for like escaping their, and I feel like this had to be an influence. Like they're known for escaping their aquariums, and like literally, I've seen stories where they have like climbed out of an aquarium across the room and like found a drainage pipe and made it to the ocean, like because they're literally able to squeeze themselves through these like little.
I think
cracks.
that's the plot of Finding Dory.
Yeah, I was about to say. I think you just saw Finding
Dory. Oh really?
Dory.
No, I've seen actual things, Joe. But no, so like it's so good. Like, so you never feel safe, because even when they have it, even like they literally eject it into space at one point, and this fucking thing makes it back into the pod, and like the way it moves, it's so like it's just like so uncanny valley gross, and there's a bunch of like great reveals.
It's flappy.
There's a couple of great reveals where like it's in somebody's suit who doesn't know it, which is like crazy. So
well, it doesn't get in the suit. It's like outside the suit, but it like fucks with
their
suit.
No, there's one where it's
No,
in the suit
guy's,
wrapped
like,
around his leg, and they're trying to help.
Jumpsuit.
They're trying to help him.
Oh, yeah.
They're trying to help him, and she unzips it, and she looks down. She's like, oh. So
see, that thing was cool because once you see like the final form of this creature, I honestly didn't have a hard time believing that that's not what it looked like on Mars, because as smart as they showed this thing was, and the way it changed every time it fed and stuff like that, I kind of felt like it probably adapted to its surroundings.
Well, my question, right? That's a good question, because like if it wasn't floating on Mars, could it fly? Like it had to be. It couldn't just be like fly. You know, maybe,
right.
So maybe you're right.
But then when you see it later, when it reaches its final forms, and it's got a lot of flaps hanging off of it. It's got the tentacles and everything. It's got a lot of flaps though that make you think of flaps on airplanes when they're directing the wings and the tail and stuff.
So many flaps.
Yeah.
So many flaps.
No, but it's just like it.
I would classify it as generally
They do a great job at making this thing seem unstoppable. Like not only unstoppable, like literally Ryan Reynolds like shoots it with fire and it just is fine. You know what I mean?
Well, it's very cool. It was a good decision to make it not be huge. I think that like the fact that even as it's grown, like at its biggest size for most of the movie, it's like no bigger than a dog, right? It's super fast. And as we've noted, very flappy. But I think that's cool, right? Like I think it made it more kind of nimble and menacing in that way because like this whole point is made of like it's bouncing around the ship. We have no idea where the hell it is. It can like still fit through all of these places and kind of get everywhere. And I thought that was key to the tension in the movie. Like you really just, it could be in the cooling duct. It could also be in your pants. You just don't know.
Yeah,
You just don't know.
I agree.
Do we want to talk about the ending?
I don't
My
know.
phone's
I don't.
buzzing, so I'm assuming I'm getting like caned here and yanked off stage.
I don't know that we.
No, that's good.
I don't know that we
My
necessarily
girl's
need
got 'em.
to, only because I want to. Like, I think we all would recommend this, and it's not that the thing doesn't hinge on the ending, but
Yeah.
Shit
No,
goes
but I
bad.
think we should talk about it. To me, it was, it actually made the like I walked out on a high note because of the way it ended.
Yeah. All right.
Ooh. Did you high five anyone while you were walking out?
So do you
I
want
did
me
like
to-
a raise the roof. Actually, it was like,
John got up and started clapping. He was the only one.
Ew.
He was like, "Oh
Yeah.
shit, I am hype."
I was like, I don't want to live on this planet anymore. Do you want me to run through it or no? Did we decide?
Sure.
So,
Spoiler alert.
major spoilers. As I already sort of gave up earlier, the people on this ship don't fare super well in general. They just get flap squeezed to death, and they mostly die. And it's down to Jake Gyllenhaal and Firewall woman, whose name is escaping me. But basically, after everyone's pretty much dead, they've basically decided that, or she reveals that the final firewall is that they're gonna just like shoot out into deep space so that this alien doesn't get to Earth. And so their plan, they basically have this plan. Jake Gyllenhaal's like, well, I'm gonna kind of die anyways, so let me lure.
Well,
Calvin.
he's like, I don't want to go back to Earth, so like, fuck it.
I don't want to go back to Earth,
Yeah.
right? And also he's like kind of in bad shape, but it's more like I don't want to go back to Earth.
I don't want to miss
And
anything.
and she was the one who he basically said like you deserve to live and I whatever. So their plan is that they have, and I actually thought this scene was really cool. They have these little are they called candlesticks or what are they called? I don't know, but
They're
they're
like
these,
oxygen
yeah,
sticks.
oxygen
yeah,
candles.
They're like these lit up oxygen sticks,
I
and
wonder if
basically
that's
it needs
real.
oxygen. So their plan is to kind of like lure it into. There's two escape pods.
What they have
basically.
what they have done at this point is they have basically been slowly ejecting all of the oxygen out of the space station to try to kill it, or
kill
to
it,
try to, and then they're using these sticks, yeah, like you said, to lure it into the pod. Which works because the thing is starving for oxygen.
Right. So the plan works, and they get him in the pod. But like I said, like one of my favorite things, I really thought this was just really cool how this played out. I thought visually it was really cool. I thought the idea was very cool. So the two of them end up in pods, and they take off. And for the next like 5 minutes or so, you're seeing flashes between these two pods. Like Calvin is fully wrapped around Jake Gyllenhaal, and you're seeing like they're hitting space shit. They're like orbiting close to Earth. They have all these issues going on, and you see that one of the pods kind of just flies out into deep space, and one of them makes it to Earth and lands in a sea in, let's say, China. I think that's safe to say.
It looks like the South Pacific, maybe.
I was going to
Yeah.
say Vietnam.
Yeah.
Okay. An Asian country. It lands in a sea near an Asian country.
Southeast Asia.
And I think if you're with us, you can probably see what we're telegraphing here because we've been telegraphing it all show, much like this movie has. A couple guys row their boat out to this pod that has landed in the ocean or landed in whatever body of water. And they look in, and it is not Firewall Lady. It is Jake Gyllenhaal, and he's completely covered
And
in
he's
Calvin.
got like a Creepshow 2 style like thing stuck to his face.
He's very Calvin. He's
Totally jacked up.
he's becoming one with Calvin.
And he's saying, no, don't open it. And they're like, oh, we're going to open it. And then
And you get a lot of really
No, don't open it.
really lot of high quality, super loud Inception noises. I texted Eric Inception noise in all caps because
I love Inception noises.
with the reveal.
You know why why this ending is great, I think, is because it's just the way that they handle it. Like they're not trying to hide it from you, right? Like as they're going down the two capsules, like you see the alien reaching for his hand and you see her, And like on its face, like they're sort of showing you that she's going to Earth and he's going out. But then when you know, if you're a like us and you watch a lot of movies, you're also looking at it and going like, they're not actually explicitly showing me who's
Right.
going
If
to Earth
you've
and who
ever
isn't.
watched a genre movie, you kind of knew where this was going, and I actually think.
But I think they intentionally left it vague to get you thinking
Definitely.
that, because that makes the entire scene intense. Because then you're
Yeah.
like, because even the whole build up to like the fisherman like slow going over, you know, like they really ring it out to get as much
The
tension out of
second
that.
they show the fisherman in that boat and they don't show who was in the thing when it
You're
landed,
like,
you
"Oh,
knew
shit."
what it was.
Yeah.
And I think it was like a perfect kind of Twilight Zone-y sci-fi ending in that way, that like you knew what was coming, and it was, you know, John said he kind of left the theater happy about it. I think that's about the best ending you could hope for in this movie, because it wasn't the sort of movie that had enough emotional weight to deserve like a really like hopeful kind of feel good ending. It was more just like a straight up like everyone's gonna fucking die and this is like
Yeah.
that thing's scary. And
I'm not
that
gonna
was the
lie,
end,
it
yeah.
kind of made me want a sequel that's just a totally different movie, where that thing just like is a giant monster movie thing.
I mean, it's basically
Well-
Cloverfield at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
was about
I
to
think
say,
that
like,
thing
they
had
could
some
totally do-
flaps.
That thing's
so-
cooler than
I mean, it's
Cloverfield,
basically
though.
Venom at that point, right?
Clover flaps.
Clover flaps.
No, I mean, for me, like I was surprised. They do, to Eric's point, like they don't hide it necessarily, but there's a moment when the thing lands where you're like, or at least for me, I was like, maybe it's okay, and then it ends up being like way grimmer of an ending than
super
I was
grim,
expecting.
yeah, which was
basically.
kind of awesome. Like, it's
And
kind
the
of a
point that I
ballsy way
made
to
that
go.
really struck me with the ending is they didn't go over the top, because you see the guy a Vietnamese guy swim up there and he pulls the door off. You see him chuck the door out and they start pulling out away from the capsule. You would expect giant Calvin tentacles coming out and throwing Vietnamese dudes around, and that's when it cuts. But they keep pulling out, and like Mark said, they do have the Inception boom sound going on, so you do have that tension from that. But it's pulling away. They don't show anything over the top, and I really like that, because us, the viewer, especially when you see this as a I'm sorry, that was a big mistake. Not a
Twilight, New Moon.
Twilight Zone-y type of ending. As they start to pull away, you know we're all fucked, and you don't need the over the topness. It's great because you just get to dwell on the fact that there's no way out of this.
Twilight flapping dawn.
I was fully expecting like a Kelvin jump at the screen, you know,
Yeah,
like we get
that's-
at
I
the
was
end of all
waiting-
these
Like
supernatural
Casey said, I was
movies.
waiting for like giant tentacles to be shooting out of this thing, and I agree. I love the fact that it was just kind of like this pull away, and you, like in your head, kind of filled in what was about to happen.
Yeah. That's
And
cool.
also, like, an ending that tight just sort of makes you kind of forgive any shortcomings there might be in the movie. Like, it just wraps it up really neatly. And it was like, man,
yeah,
Any
like,
problems I
pretty
had
fun.
with the movie were just washed away in those 5 seconds.
All right, Joe. Let's take a look at my top 10, Joe. I think I have
Oh,
to
yeah,
add,
let's
I have
do
to add
it.
2 movies to it, actually.
Yeah, we got to talk about last week because I
Yeah.
wasn't on.
What do we got? What's my top 5 right now?
Right now you have Get Out as number 1 and Split as number 2, and then
Oh.
Resident Evil is down at like 13 or 14 just as a potential.
All right, let's put for now. Let's put Life in at number 3,
All right.
and let's put
You better hope there are no more good movies for the rest of the year.
let's put
Well, we
Bel-
agreed now that like you
No, I
move
can
stuff
slide. I'm
around,
gonna
right?
slide them around.
Okay.
Let's put
Yeah.
Belko
What about-
Experiment at
what about
number
Belko?
6.
All right.
It feels like a 5, but I'm gonna leave myself a little bit of room. Actually, you know what? Put it at 5.
Yeah.
Put it at
Put it at
5.
5. All right.
Yeah.
Now that you've decided that you can move stuff around, do you want to put Resident Evil in the top 10?
No, it's so bad. It wasn't worth. No.
All right.
Even
That's not what you said on the episode, but all
even
right.
I can't do that.
All
right,
This
I
is a
feel-
good experiment.
I feel good. I've been
Eric's
waiting.
just so excited he's not gonna have to do this work at the end of the year.
Dude,
Yeah.
bro,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the first person on the site to have finished my top 10 list. It's gonna be amazing.
And
then-
right now you
somehow
have
I feel like that's still not going to happen. We'll
No,
see.
right now you have Bye Bye Man as the worst and Rings as the third
I
worst.
stand by that. Yeah, those are
Yep.
2 bad movies. All right, guys. Nice work. Would you recommend this,
All right.
Mark?
Yeah, if you're looking for something fun, it's good. Otherwise, you could probably wait.
Joe,
I would wait for DVD, but yeah, I think it's good.
John,
I will recommend a watch.
Casey.
Yeah, go see it.
All right, let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
They're coming for me.
The creators of Tales from the Crypt have unearthed a story so terrifying it can only be seen on the big screen. Bordello of Blood.
Go for it!
Rated R. Starts Friday, August 16th at theaters everywhere.
Hi, this is Billy Bryan, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. I really hope.
I love those Tales from the Crypt movies. What was the Demon Knight?
Yeah,
That was
Demon Knight.
great.
Yeah, I was like Bordello Blood. I was at a soft spot.
I
for
liked
that
it too. Yeah.
Wait,
I
which
liked
one
it.
was Jon Stewart in? Was that Demon Knight?
What?
Or
yeah,
not Jon Stewart?
Billy Zane?
Billy's.
No, one of the.
Corey Feldman was in one of them.
Stand by.
Oh, are you thinking of what Dennis?
Yeah,
Miller?
yeah, Dennis.
Yeah,
Miller,
that's
that's
Bordello of Blood. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
I
got
really
myself confused.
I
on
really
late
hope
night hosts.
I really hope all the live stream viewers tonight are enjoying me blowing my nose every 2 minutes.
Yeah, everyone's real excited about it.
Really getting your patrons money worth. So hope you appreciate it.
Patron.
That's our custom Calvin sound effects for this episode.
Yep.
Cucumber.
Casey's gonna read fan mail for me tonight.
Cucumber.
Please note,
Yeah.
please note, Casey, I gave you full names, but I typically do not read them. Like I
Okay.
just give first names.
Just go with first names?
Yeah.
And home
Okay.
address.
George W. Bush.
This is Kelvin. He comes from 1313 Mockingbird Lane. Brock Lesnar versus Joe.
Oh boy.
But they're fighting at Disney World, and Joe has 48 hours to prepare.
I love this. I actually love this. I love the idea that Joe could set up like Home Alone style Disney World traps.
I think if you change 48 hours to 48 beers, Joe might have a chance.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Brock
You're
Lesnar.
right there, Mark.
It's well established that Brock Lesnar uses unnatural supplements to maintain his inhuman form, so Joe needs to use his own inhuman supplements.
Well, it's interesting because if I have time to prepare, you go for the they have the Maleficent like fire breathing dragon now. So you get that fucker like on your side and kind of ride that around. I'll take that. I'll take that against Brock Lesnar
Joe,
any
it's
day.
not real though.
Yeah, but I can ride it and I can control it. It's
Is it
my
Does it
real?
friend.
really spit
Still,
fire? Very confused.
Is it real fire?
Joe, do they have the thing? Is that a Lilo and Stitch thing now? It's like a hologram. It used to be an alien thing, like an alien. broke
Oh,
out
the
of
alien
tube and
encounter.
now-
No, they closed that down. Actually, there's rumors that they're
shit.
actually going to turn that into a Wreck-It Ralph ride. which
Because I
would
was
be,
gonna
like,
say, if
super
you
cool.
could like trick him into that, I think the hologram would confuse
Oh, you could
him,
trap him in
obviously.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things. Or you could take him on the carousel of progress, and he would just fall asleep by watching it, and then you could just murder him.
I think Mark's onto something because you got to figure a Brock Lesnar in a with a hologram. There'd be a lot of fire, bad.
You could also
And
take him
action
to the
going
Hall
on.
of Presidents and just fucking bore him to death.
Yeah, exactly. The same
Another-
thing. I was literally about to say the same. Although they put the
Another
Muppets in there now.
Oh, good. That's
Someone
what.
gets
Yeah.
bored.
That's
I'm in.
Price it up. God damn it, I love that place.
All right. Next up, we have email from Robert. Robert says, "Evening, gentlemen. It sounds like the NYC meetup was a great success, and I'm gutted I couldn't make it. Any chance you could
It
do
was
the
okay.
next one in Manchester, UK, please?
No.
Only if you get your friends to pledge to Patreon."
Yeah.
Let's just
Yeah,
say
like
if we're making Manchester UK
50,000
money,
patrons.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure we're quitting the podcast if we're making travel to Manchester UK money.
I'm
we're
quitting
gonna
my
just-
job if we can
Yeah,
afford
we're
that.
gonna just take our giant cartoonish money bags and ride off into the sunset.
Robert goes on to say, RSS feeds, yes, Feedly is
Oh.
amazing. Eric show, 1,000% yes.
I like this guy. I don't know why. I just get a good vibe.
And Ghost
Eric,
in
maybe
the
instead
Shell,
of a
I was going to
keep
say
going.
Ghost in the Shell, no.
Oh.
However, this should be an Eric episode. There you go.
I could just do my solo show.
I think you should just do a show about the trailer for Ghost in the Shell, like without having seen the movie.
I think instead of a show, you should just post random thoughts to an RSS feed, and then you can see how many people would actually use it.
I bet you a lot.
Isn't that basically Twitter?
Yes,
you know.
yeah, actually.
That's okay.
Yeah,
'cause
right.
Robert
But the
has,
whole point is that Eric is tying himself to this RSS feed,
Yeah.
and then he'll eventually learn that that is what Twitter is. But you're leading the witness here. He hasn't realized it yet,
Mark,
so he's got to get.
RSS
Fear
feeds
not.
are the backbone of the internet, okay?
There you go. Fear not, Robert's got more ideas for the Eric Show. He says he was always also thinking about other potential Eric Show topics, such as the search for gluten-free everything, wrestling, John Schnars, though I expect this will get a bit X-rated, so maybe put it on the Eric Show spinoff,
Those
Eric
are-
Show After Hours.
Those are my top 3 Google searches.
Paul Rudd from Halloween 6,
Number 4.
the It Follows soundtrack,
Yep.
the rise of dubstep, and how Joe's music hurts your feelings.
These are all things that I like, so yeah.
He goes on to say, anyways, hope you guys are doing well. P.S. Joe, check out a band called Saor, S-A-O-R. They are an atmospheric black metal band from Scotland.
I legit, I have actually checked them out. I enjoy their work a great deal.
Nice. I am sure I pronounced it wrong.
They're not OAR, the white kid college rock band. That's so close. It's only one letter off.
Well, yeah, it's because they're from Scotland, right?
Yeah.
Mark, don't
All
pretend
right,
like
next
you didn't
up, we
love
got
them.
email from Cody. Cody says, fun fact, Execute is
Yep.
a Pokemon.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so for those who weren't on the show last week, Sophie was pronouncing execute as execute, and I busted her chops a little bit. And then we had multiple people write in and point out to us that execute was a Pokemon. that is literally like an egg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Cody goes on to say, Ghost in the Shell looks cool. I think you guys should skip Life to see it or Kong, even though I thought Kong was not theater worthy and made me really want Godzilla to destroy him in 5 seconds, like Godzilla did to Gyno, 98 Godzilla, in the Final Wars movie.
Did that have
That
flaps
is
too?
not a movie. That's not real.
Have you seen the Netflix
That-
Death Note trailer? It is literally my favorite manga anime. Everything from the art to the plot to the characters are perfect, so hope it's good.
I heard that a Death Note trailer dropped. I did not watch it. I'm not really familiar with it, so it wasn't really my thing, but I heard that people were way into that, so.
Yeah.
Manga.
Cody goes on to say, finally, a fun question for you guys. What sitcom cast would you like to have seen in a Freddy versus Jason movie? Which cast and which slasher? Example, Friends, that 70s show, Seinfeld. And who do you think would be the survivor of that group?
That was way too complicated of a question.
Wait, I'm confused.
Yeah.
Are they having like a battle royal?
I think so.
I only understand questions like Joe versus Barack Lesnar. Like, that's about it.
Yeah.
Disney World.
These open-ended questions we don't deal well with. Can you
It's a
just
binary
give us,
answer.
We're not
yes
good with
or no.
ensemble casts.
Oh boy.
The Simpsons? Does that one count?
Yeah.
Versus Family
Versus Family Guy? Yeah.
I think I was
Yeah.
gonna make a mean-spirited joke about Big Bang Theory as long as everyone
Oh,
the
get in
cast
there.
died.
Yes, get in there, Mark. You
I
got it.
couldn't fully flesh out the joke. I just feel like they'd all do poorly, and that would be okay with me.
The Big Bang Theory versus what is that? The show on HBO?
Silicon Valley.
You know
Game
where
of
they have like
Thrones.
the startup, the internet startup.
Silicon
Oh,
Valley.
don't you dare compare those two, because Silicon
No,
Valley.
but it would be funny to watch those two cats battle. Like I feel like that
That would be
good
funny.
Yeah.
stuff.
All right, next question.
All right, next up we have Matt.
Eric's ready to move on.
Matt writes in, greetings, BGH crew. I have 2 questions.
Ugh.
The first is for Eric. Who would win in a fight, Brock Lesnar or Goldberg? Not really a hypothetical, since this is the main event of WrestleMania this year, but combining the BGH meme with reality may allow Eric to show off all his book learning about wrestling.
None of
Wait,
my
Goldberg is back?
none of my book learning actually pertains to like modern day wrestling. So mine would actually be quite. I bet Mark knows who's gonna win.
You're muted, Mark, by the way.
I'm
She's like yelling
unmuted for the one thing. No, Goldberg is back. He is 15 years older than the last time he was in the ring, and it's going to be a terrible match, and we're all losers for having
Because he left after like 2003 or something, right?
He has that. Yeah, he just won the belt. He's got the main title, and he's fighting Brock Lesnar this Sunday in 2017. That is a real thing that's happening.
Basically, Goldberg got to eat, so he decided to come back.
In Goldberg's prime, he could not wrestle longer than a minute and a half, and that was 15 years ago. So, not
is
really looking
Gilbert
forward.
back or Gilbert?
You know what's funny? They did actually bring Gilbert back for like a one show.
It's funny you say that because I have a picture of Mini Mankind and Mini Vader up in the stream, literally right now.
Oh, thank God! When are they gonna come back?
Yeah.
All right, then the second question that Matt has for us. This one is for Joe. And it does pertain to WrestleMania because it's going on in Orlando. He says, I'm going to Orlando this weekend for WrestleMania and we'll be spending a couple days at Disney World. As the resident Disney expert, do you have any suggestions for things that might appeal to a grown-up, or at least the sort of grown-up man-child who would travel to Orlando for WrestleMania?
Joe, you get one. You get one thing.
Well, he asked. What?
Eric's being a real grown up here. You get one.
I would
toy,
say
Joe.
if you have 2 days, I would hit Magic Kingdom and Epcot because I mean Magic Kingdom is like the original. Like you have to see that, and Epcot is definitely by far like the most fun for adults. So
Two things.
Do that.
That was very succinct. Great job, Joe.
Nice job, Joe.
Nice. All right, next up we have Skylar. Skylar says, I finally made it out to the theater to check out the Belko Experiment last weekend. While I thought the movie was pretty enjoyable splatter fare, I have to say you haven't fully experienced the film until you've sat next to two middle-aged women who spent the entire second half of the movie squirming in their seats yelling, "Oh, Lordy, Lordy, what is this massacre movie, Lordy?" It makes me wonder if they walked into the wrong theater and were perplexed as to why the new Beauty and the Beast film took place in a modern-day office building.
You know what, Casey, is just striking me right now as you're reading this? When you read fan mail, you sound exactly like Joe Bob Briggs used to on Monster Vision when he read fan mail, and I'm kind of into it. This might be your new thing.
All right. It kind of goes along with my game show announcer voice. Yeah. So he goes on to say, "Where are the Magic Furniture people? When do the songs start? Why did that nice boy from the newsroom bash that man's face in with a tape dispenser? All I know is my life is now complete."
Is the main character, dude, is he in the newsroom? I've never seen the newsroom. I probably should.
I don't know. I only know him from 10 Cloverfield Lane, so.
Right.
Huh. Have you guys seen Beauty and the Beast? It's delightful.
No.
Was it good?
It was really good, actually.
Yeah,
it was weird. My dentist rented out theaters for everyone that goes to him to go see.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fucking
Well,
bonkers.
if that's not a charitable dentist, I don't know what is.
And I thought
The
my
best.
dentist was fancy for having TVs on the ceiling.
Yeah.
That's real weird.
Yeah, when's the last time your dentist sent you to a movie, Casey?
I know. Next up, we got Toby. Toby says, "Eric, as per the Belko Experiment episode conversation, I want to throw my support in your corner of your love and too much knowledge of Dawson's Creek as a dude in his early 30s.
It's hilarious.
I don't want to wait.
You guys missed this conversation last episode.
Thank God.
I wouldn't say we missed it.
bullet in my head.
While no one else will probably
Oh, well.
have an answer for this, what was your
Right.
favorite Dawson's episode or moment? My absolute favorite moment is one of the first episodes where they reenact Breakfast Club, only because there's a conversation about the Mighty Ducks, Emilio Estevez, and Pacey, a.k.a. Captain Duck, makes a comment about how awesome those movies were."
Yeah, I'm
My
gonna say
favorite one is the one where someone's dad dies because he was reaching for an ice cream cone that
Yeah.
fell in his car.
it's Dawson's
My
Dad.
favorite
that
episode
true.
is the episode after the season or the series finale.
Here's what I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna subject everyone on this show to my thoughts on this, but I would say hit me up on Twitter, where the audience of two will care about it, and we can.
That's
we can
Eric
discuss from
BGH
there.
on Twitter, and I cannot wait to see how this unfolds.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
fine.
I think it's
no.
just going to end up with pictures of Katie Holmes.
I'm not gonna
honestly.
suggest everyone subject everyone to it now. So
Can someone
Finally-
Photoshop Eric's face on the crying Dawson meme? That's something I'd like to see.
Yes.
here's the face.
All
Yeah.
right, finally, we got an email from Rugger. He says, "Sup, fellas? I just started listening to your podcast a couple months ago, and today was the first time I hit your site.
Where the fuck have you been, Rutger?
I noticed no one had reviewed Wormwood, which I thought was a decent zombie flick from the Mates Down Under. I think it's still streaming on Netflix if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, we did it on the show and we all hated it.
We did it for the show, yeah.
Yeah, you can go back to
That was the
episode.
that was one of the few times we've actually gotten a like a cast member of the movie to like chime in about how she was disappointed in our review.
Yeah, the female lead. No, actually, she said it was like she actually took it really well.
Well, she made a joke about something that we said in the movie.
Well, and I mean,
yeah, it's because John said, as John said, like there's one road in Australia, and she like referenced that.
Also, though, I'm pretty sure that she was the only thing that we had like good things to say. So I think like she,
yeah. It worked out.
Maybe that's why she like her publicist sent it to her and was like, "Hey, these guys hated the movie, but they said you were okay."
Yeah.
Glad to have you as a listener and now reader. We just disagree wholeheartedly on Wormwood.
Yeah.
We disagree with a lot of people on that movie.
Wormwood.
Go.
Yeah.
Go back to whatever hellhole you crawled out of, Rutger.
It's not as bad as Cody, who writes in for the first time, and we immediately review the movie he recommends and then hated it. So, poor
Wait,
guy.
what was that? Who was that?
Whatever the movie we watched.
It's just best.
That was like
It's
2
just
shows
best
ago.
to not mention any movies at all when you write us, and that way you have no chance of us shitting.
There you go.
Oh, what movie was it now? I'm gonna be upset. I can't
I already
remember.
forgot the name. That's how forgettable it was.
Oh.
Roger finishes up with
Fear Inc.
one other movie I have only seen once, The Bermuda Depths. I thought I was the only person haunted by this movie. From all the information I could find, it was only aired one time. About 10 years ago, I went on a search for the movie with the giant turtle and found account after account of people haunted by the very same movie. It seems it's not so special anymore. It's on YouTube and DVD through Amazon. Haha, it's pretty dated now. But as a 7-year-old, it was seriously creepy. Good work with the show. Keep it up.
It is great how the internet can like, uncover those things for you, but then also like there's a little magic lost, there's no more mysteries.
Yeah, you always got that nugget of something, and although it paid off for us, like with Joe's fascination with the peanut butter experiment.
Yeah, mine was like this long lost Hanna-Barbera cartoon that I had on a VHS as a kid, and all I could do was describe that they were like bears dressed up as like Native Americans, and they had a big totem pole, and the totem pole would come to life and like fight monsters. And literally, I was at work one day, this was like a decade ago, and this dude was like, "Oh, you mean pawpaws?" And I was like, "What?"
Oh yeah, I do remember
And
that.
I looked it up, and it's totally called pawpaws. It was like part
That
of the.
sounds not woke.
I don't know. Can bears appropriate? I'm not sure.
It kind
Guys,
of goes along with
The
that
people
whole
who
theory
draw
of,
bears can.
Bears are
it kinda
Native
goes with
Americans,
that
Mark.
old adage of never meet your heroes.
Mark, aren't
The Bermuda Depths really quickly features one Carl Weathers.
Oh,
Mhm.
I like it.
And Burl Ives. So
Oh,
good
Carl
times
Weathers.
all around.
That's
Those
Apollo,
are names
right?
of people I've heard of.
Wait, Carl Weathers?
yeah,
isn't
Burl
that
Ives
Apollo
is
Creed?
Apollo.
Wait, Burl. Wait, are you? Oh, now you guys are
Jesus
confusing
Christ,
me.
we need to move
yes,
on. We need to go.
Yes. He's also. I mean, I love Carl Weathers from what's it called? The
The Colt
comedy
45 commercials.
show. No,
from
he's
Carl
fucking-
Weathers?
When he's playing himself as the acting instructor.
Yes, you're
to,
talking about Arrested Development?
Yeah, Arrested
Yeah.
Development.
Carl
He's so-
Weathers. That's Apollo Creed.
Yeah.
Thank God we figured that out, guys. You want to read some tweets?
No, I got more to talk about Carl Weathers. What was that Happy Gilmore movie?
yeah.
Oh
Happy-
yeah.
Happy
I think
Gilmore?
it was called Happy
It's
Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, what was his name in that?
Shooter, no.
Not Happy
Don't worry.
Gilmore.
You guys move on. I'll
We'll figure it out.
Stubbs McKenzie?
Stubbs.
Yeah,
It
there you
was
go,
Stubbs. It was Stubbs.
I don't know. I think I made up the McKenzie part, but it was definitely Stubbs. Okay.
Spuds.
Should we? I don't care.
It's fine.
Stubbs McKenzie's a new character I'm writing. I'm workshopping it. All right, so we use 2 hashtags, and I'm going to burn through these. The first one's BGH Classics. If you are a patron of the show at patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror and you're listening to our old back episodes and we say something stupid or silly and you want us to know about it, tweet it with the hashtag BGH Classics and we'll read on the show. First one is from That Baseball Joe. Mark's MovieGuide.org segment is born on episode 245, ABCs of Death. Wow, that's how long I've been doing that. And appropriately, we had a movie guide and we skipped it because we clearly we're going long.
Chubbs. Chubbs was
Chubbs.
his name.
Yeah,
That was
Stubbs.
it.
It's
Oh, did I
Chubbs.
say Stubbs? That's
No, but
Yes.
Stubbs makes more sense because he was missing his hand.
right. I know. Well, that's why it's more
White
fucked
Chubbs.
up. The next one's from Sam Drog 2000. I like your name, Sam Drog. Eric hating on Cabin in the Woods before the release, episode 189.
I kind of wanted to I kind of wanted to hear that context. That
Sounds like
movie
big
did
news.
kind of sneak up out of nowhere.
It was very good. Well, it's like you're watching, you're like, oh, that's so derivative, and then you watch and you're like, oh, that's the whole point, and that's why it's awesome. Last one is from That Baseball Joe. Where is my Saw/Hostel crossover? Sawstel. That was from Eric 314. Woman in Black 2.
Pretty good.
Okay, we also use the hashtag AskBGH. If you want to ask us a question, let us know.
Woman
tweet it with the hashtag AskBGH, and we'll read it on the show. First one is from BDD Paul. What does it say about me that my favorite episodes feature Joe as extremely drunk?
I feel like that's most listeners, right?
They're
Those are
Everyone
actually,
loves that.
they're not
oddly enough, those are Eric's least favorite
yeah,
episodes.
they're not my favorite, but I get it. Like if you didn't have to deal with it, I could understand why it would be your favorite.
I feel like you and my wife could really bond over something.
Yeah, they are my favorite because I miss hanging out with Joe in person, and we used to get real silly.
Oh,
So
you
that's
guys.
Anyhow,
Oddly enough, when the 5 of us got together, I was the least drunk of all of you.
It's true.
that is kind of funny. Well, that's because we all tried to keep up with you, and clearly none of us could. Next one's from B. Lassiter. They made it into a movie. Yuck, yuck, yuck. It's the Life cereal commercial. Get it? Because the movie's called Life. Next one's from Danny JPEG. Now that the It trailer is out, what do you think? If you didn't watch it, play it now. I don't give a fuck if it will ruin the podcast sound.
We talked about it. It's sweet.
Yeah.
Supported. Next one from Bad Attitude for You. Spoil me. Does Jake Gyllenhaal make it to millionaire estates or countryside acres?
I love it.
I don't know.
For those of you who have never seen the Life Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy flick.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Which I am shocked I have not made one joke about that movie this entire time.
Well, Jason did it for you.
Yeah. Good on you, Jason.
Next one's from Nick Allman Scott. Which movie do you prefer, Alien or Aliens?
I like them both for different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you have to pick one, you have to go Alien. But
Yeah, I agree.
You know what though, man?
you know,
When she discovers the queen, it's like one of the scariest things that I've ever seen. It's
Fair point.
terrifying. So
Fair point.
have you guys seen? There's a new Alien Covenant poster that's like a wall kind of like sculpture thing that looks like a religious, like I'm sure there's like a direct analogy of what it is. It's really cool, and I guess some people are speculating that it's teasing that there's going to be another queen in this one. I'll find it here.
Dude, I just saw that trailer for the first time, and it's fucking awesome. And
Looks
also,
good.
I'm really excited, and I'm really excited, and I just really hope we get some answers.
get some answers around here.
Some goddamn answers. Okay, next one is from franchise MPLS. Why is there gravity on the Nostromo from Alien? What are your other favorite horror sci-fi movies?
Pandorum.
Yeah, that was good.
I think about that movie
I was
so
somewhat
often.
joking, but
No,
yeah, it
well,
is a weird movie that I think
about
more
it
than
so
you
often
should.
because it's like I don't remember a single thing from the movie but the twist. That's the only thing I remember from the entire
Well,
movie.
this twist reminded me of it.
Yeah, for
A
sure.
little bit.
Twist.
Does the Thing count as a horror sci-fi movie? Because I think that will forever be my favorite.
I don't know if it like counts either, but like The Abyss, I love that movie, and like it's like super sci-fi and definitely has like horror elements.
Well, this is James Cameron. That's just a sweet movie. Bottom
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, how cool is
There's
that
a lot of great
poster?
ones out there. I even have a soft spot for. I know not everybody loves it, but Event Horizon.
Oh, I was about to say, yeah, that movie's great.
I think did we not cover Event Horizon?
I think we did it. Yeah, I think we did an Event Horizon
I
show.
think
Is
it's
it
one of my.
possible?
I think it might have been one of my picks in a staff pick at one point. So
Dudes,
Cool.
dudes,
Neato.
how cool is this Alien Covenant poster that I just sent?
Very
That's
cool.
awesome.
Are you putting it on the video feed so people
Yes,
can see
it's in the video.
it? Okay, good.
But apparently there's
la-
some type of image in there that is leading people to think that there's a queen.
Last one. It's from Vapid Youth. Is it me or did the alien, when it escaped, distinctly look like Flubber? It had flubbery qualities.
I would still go Zero from Nightmare Before Christmas.
I would go with Flapper, which is a combination of Flipper and Flubber.
It actually reminded me, like, once it had a face and it kind of looked like a cobra. There's definitely a Pokemon that it looks like, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it.
Right, sure.
Yeah.
We were all thinking it.
Yeah.
My wife Colleen swears that it looked like one of the mobs in the one of the later World of Warcraft expansions when you went into kind of the outer space zones.
Mm-hmm.
Leroy.
Okay, that's remarkably specific, but okay.
Jenkins. Cool. That's it for tweets.
Oh,
Cucumber.
I really made myself laugh.
Cucumba.
I laughed when I went back and listened to last week's show, and I accidentally played the music over Mark, like I was playing him off. It's
To
good
play
shit.
us out? You mean to end the show?
I've never done that before, and it made myself
Fucking
laugh
thinks so.
in the future. So that was
Thanks,
cool.
it's stage right even.
Oh my god, yeah. You know, I mean,
Info at-
sometimes I deserve to get played out. I can get a little wordy.
Info at bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address. We're also on Twitter. What are we doing next week? Is that Kong
Mm-hmm.
It's from the con, bro.
sighting?
Yeah.
And don't
Like
forget,
Louis Armstrong, play the trumpet.
Don't
I'll hit
forget-
that Kong and break you off something.
if you want,
I got to get my props, cops.
Oh man,
don't
people are
forget,
gonna kill themselves listening. To next
we
week's
we have
episode.
talked about a plethora of classic episodes tonight, and if you want to hear them, go to patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you next week.
Adios.
See you.
Deuces, everyone.
Bye bye.